All right, well, today's project is going to be changing the fuel filter on this Kubota MX5200. Fuel filter is a spin-on filter, and it's located here on the right side of the tractor. It's pretty easy to access, plenty of room even with the loader on here. So we're going to change that filter, and we're also going to clean the water separator. Now you can see on this water separator that the floating ring is laying on the bottom, so it doesn't look like there's any water in the system, which is a great thing. But just as a preventive maintenance item, we're going to go ahead and clean that element out. This element, according to my Kubota dealer and according to the service manual, doesn't look like that's really a replaceable item or meant to be replaced. So we're going to clean that element and reuse it per the suggestion there at the dealer and the book. And we're going to clean everything in the separator there, put it all back together. We're going to clean it with diesel fuel. It calls for kerosene in the book, but I've got diesel fuel here, so we're going to use that. This is the fuel filter. Part number is that 1J800-43172. So that's the filter. And again, it's just a spin-on. Got the O-ring top, so we're going to lubricate that O-ring with a little clean fuel before we screw it on. No real markings on here. So that's the fuel filter. I went ahead and picked up the O-ring for the water separator too, just because we're going to be breaking that seal, and I want to have this O-ring on hand if I need it. So the O-ring that we need for the water separator is, there's your part number there, 1G311-43570. So I'm going to go ahead and unscrew the old filter and disassemble that water separator, and I'll catch you guys up here as we go. All right, well, you can see I got the new fuel filter on there, and again, that was just as simple as spinning the old one off, lubricating the new O-ring on the new one, and spinning the new one on. Makes contact go 1/2 to 3/4 of a turn more, good and tight, and that's all you need. No tools or anything, just hand tight. You can see I have the water separator removed here. You'll notice on the pet cock or drain cock or fuel cock, it's turned horizontally. Now, originally that switch was flipped vertically, and that was the on position. I flipped it horizontally to shut the fuel off so that the tank doesn't drain. And then I simply unscrewed the retaining ring, and the whole assembly then came out. The filter kind of stuck in there a little bit, but just wiggled it out with my hand. Now I'll show you, I've got everything over here on the bench now, and I'm just getting ready to actually did start cleaning it. I went ahead and put it back together. So this is how it will come apart. This is how the whole thing sits up in there. You unscrew that metal ring, and then the whole assembly comes apart. Now again, you've got your filter that comes out, and this is a brass screen. So again, this is not normally a replaced part. You just clean it up good, and this one looks really good. So it shouldn't be any issue there. You'll notice, or I noticed, there is a little bit of junk down in the bottom of this container. I guess it kind of acts as a sediment or a settlement or sediment bowl, like the old tractors used to have the glass bowls. But there's a spring down in there. Let's go ahead and dump it out. There's a spring in there that keeps tension on the screen. There's also that floating red ring. Now that red ring floats when you start to accumulate water in your fuel. You'll notice this ring start floating up on the water. So the water will be at the bottom of the bowl, and that ring floats on the water. So it's the separating line between the water and the fuel. So keep an eye on that ring. As long as it's sitting on the bottom, you're in good shape. But when you notice that ring starts to float, you need to dump the fuel out of your bowl there. And you can see the crap down in there. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up. This is that O-ring that I talked about, that I went ahead and bought the replacement one. I'm going to go ahead and replace that just for safety's sake. A little bit of preventive maintenance to make sure I don't have any issues out of that leaking. But I'm going to clean all these components up. I'm going to get that new O-ring put on there, and we'll get it stuck back on the tractor. All right, well, you can see I've got the water separator all put back together. Just tighten it up good with my hands. I didn't use any wrenches on it. I didn't need a wrench to unscrew it, and I don't want to have to use a wrench to tighten it back on. Next thing we're going to do, I'm going to turn that fuel cock again, and I don't know if we'll be able to see it very well. The fuel going back in there. You can see a little bit of something starting to drip down on the inside. But what we're going to do now to drain this system, because we've opened it up, we're going to come up here to our filter On top of our filter housing, this is how we're going to bleed the fuel system. So this is a 10mm wrench. The book recommends you turn it about 2 turns open. So that's what we're going to do. I don't want to remove that plug. Okay, then we're going to come over here to our key switch. We're going to turn it on and we're going to let the system kind of purge the air out. So we'll turn the key switch on and leave it on for a minute. Now we can hear the fuel pump running. See, we're all full up there. Now that pump should purge all the water, or all the air out of the system, and it should just recirculate then back into the tank. All right, well, it's been about a minute now, I guess, since I last checked in with you guys there, and I can really hear the fuel being returned back into the tank now. Now I'm going to get quiet and see if you can hear that fuel dribbling in the tank. Okay, so that's a really good sound. That makes me think that the air has been all purged out of the line, because I could not hear that fuel being returned to the tank for a few seconds after we first turned the key on. So now with the key still in the on position, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this vent, or plug, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to over tighten this thing, but I do want it good and snug. Okay, let's see how we did. Alright guys, well, I come out here where you may be able to hear me better. I'm going to go ahead and just let this thing run. I'll let it sit here for a few minutes and run to make sure we got all the air worked out of the line. You can tell it cranked quite a bit more than it normally does. But that's okay. I mean, we opened that air, opened the system up, let all that air in, so I'm pretty happy with how that started. Generally, when I, start it doesn't crank for nearly that long, but in any case, that'll give you an idea what to expect if you're doing this project for yourself. We're pretty well done here, so I hope I helped you with this video. If I did, click that thumbs up button. If you want to see more videos of me working on this thing, I'm going to be changing all the filters and fluids on it today, so click that subscribe button. You get to see all them videos. And until the next video, guys, keep on tinkering.